Okay, we're now going to work on Perfect Team, the Cold War, the Pyrrhic Gambit. By the summer of 1955, the CIA had grown to the point where it was ready to flex its wings in areas in which it had never been before able to operate, and in ways that would test its intragovernmental potential. The first wave of Army Special Forces support of CIA war planning initiatives and of Air Force air resupply and communications activity had waned following the Korean War, yet the major overseas base structure that the CIA had been able to establish under the cover of those units remained. Border flights, leaflet drops, and other Iron Curtain sensing operations were underway both in Europe and Asia, but the CIA had no major projects that it could call its own. The agency believed that it had the means and the requirement for advanced operations, which it would support on its own initiatives. One of the first of these would be a worldwide airborne capability of electronic intelligence, radio transmission, surveillance, photographic and radar intelligence, and other related activity. The TSS had developed many things that could be put to work, and the overseas base structure that the DDS had created under the war planning cover was more than adequate to support operations. A small team of Air Force officers, some real Air Force officers who were on agency assignment, and other CIA career personnel who operated under Air Force cover, met with U.S. Navy personnel to make arrangements for the purchase of 7 new Navy aircraft known as the P-2V-7. The P-2V was not a new plane. It had been developed shortly after World War II. Is that PlayStation 2? And the original model at one time held, is that like the war games? Held the world record for the straight line, unrefueled long distance flight. The Dash 7 model had, in addition to its 2 large reciprocating engines, 2 small T-34 Westinghouse jet engines. These small engines gave the plane a powerful jet-assisted takeoff capability and a burst of speed capability if such should be needed in a hostile situation. The airframe was rugged and proven, and Navy support facilities were available all over the world. Also, adequate cover for this plane was possible because it was slated to be given to many foreign countries as part of the military assistance program. This meant that if one should happen to be lost on a clandestine mission, the United States would disclaim any connection with the flight on a hopeful assumption that whatever country found the wreckage in its background would be unable categorically to say whether it came from the United States or from one of the several other countries. The gross weakness of this type of cover is readily apparent. Any target country, such as China, Eastern European satellites, or the Soviet Union, would scarcely even consider that these specially equipped aircraft had been launched on such a mission by Greece, Taiwan, or Japan. Even if they have some P-2Vs-7s as part of their map, furthermore, the appearance of any aircraft of this type in the inventory of any country would be made the subject of an attached report, and any worthwhile military intelligence system would have reported within days the existence of the exact number of such aircraft. Therefore, if one did not show up as wreckage in a denied area, all the country would have to do to verify any cover story release would be to check its records against what it knew to be there and determine if a plane had in fact been lost. The loss would be readily apparent. Such rather simple abuses of cover would usually lead one to conclude that the exploitation of cover was no more than sincere than most other security devices, and that it had been designed just to play the secrecy game in this country. Whether it had any merit vis the world of communism or not, but in any case, this is the way it was all done. The latter point about cover itself was always made a subject of prime importance of the agency. Wherever the planes would be operated, they would have to have insignia as special serial numbers. Nothing stands out more than an unmarked plane, and they would have to operate as part of some parent or cover organization. It's like wear a LA jersey and be a little more obvious, you nasty, disgusting trash BLM supporter. To be effective, cover these numbers and insignia would not be picked out of thin air. The CIA cannot operate aircraft of its own with a CIA insignia on them. This was one of the prime considerations during the first meetings with the Navy. Discussions went well up to the point of getting to the Navy to agree to provide the worldwide support and cover this operation would require. The Navy could see that if anything ever went wrong with the program, if any of these plans ever crashed or was shot down over denied territory, it would be that the Navy would have to bear the brunt of the exposure. The Army and the Air Force already had a history of going along with the CIA, but the Navy and service that was created a much stronger sense of tradition was willing to help. However, it was never willing to become involved. For a while, this impasse brought the P2V-7 negotiations to a standstill. Finally, the Air Force people and the CIA decided they could find no other suitable aircraft, and then they would have to find some other way to get this project going, utilizing their original choice, the P2V-7. They asked for a meeting with the Air Force. It took place sometime in August of September of 1955. It was finally agreed that the CIA would make arrangements with the Navy for the production and purchases of the planes that they would be delivered to the U.S. Air Force. The Air Force had agreed, in the assistance of the CIA, to try to establish an adequate support program for the Navy aircraft. Yeah, right. Such a support project is not easy. The Air Force had aircraft with similar engines, but everything else about them was different. The Navy maintenance and supply manuals were completely different, and the Air Force might just as well have been supporting a completely new type of aircraft. Parts, you better be careful, Jerry. That ain't true. That's not going to happen. You do know that if you disappear, that I will talk smack about it all over the internet, right? Is that clear? Parts procurement, which would have to be done with Lockheed, the manufacturer, which is funny because that's a bank. The manufacturer would require that either the Air Force requisition all parts from the Navy and then the Navy go to Lockheed, or the Air Force would have to set up a separate supply channel itself to Lockheed. In either case, it would be complicated. It was difficult to support 7 aircraft of a new and distinct type to establish procedures to support 700. It would have been easier for the Air Force to have set up a line for 700. All of these things were worked out, and the CIA Air Force officers became the project officers of the Lockheed plant. The 7 planes were given production numbers along with the regular Navy production orders, and the project was well underway. Air Force pilots were selected for training in these planes, and Air Force maintenance and supporting men were sent to Navy schools to learn how to maintain these planes. All of these men were eventually informed of the special nature of the project and that the CIA was involved. This meant that all of these men had to be assigned to the CIA and that they were all volunteers for the project. It was necessary to designate one Air Force base as the prime station for these new planes for their maintenance and for the basic supply stockpile. At the same time, the CIA Air Operations Staff and DDS Air Support Staff had come to the conclusion that CIA air activity had reached the point where it would be consolidated on one major base rather than spread out all over the world, as it had been. Also, the operational mission of the agency had reached a level that required worldwide capability instead of local European or Asian capability. The Air Force and the CIA agreed to bring all of this together at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida in terms of real estate. This was the largest base in the Air Force, and all kinds of special operations would be set up in Eglin without becoming apparent to others. Also, this was the Air Force proving ground, and it was customary to find their aircraft of all types from all services and undergoing operational training exercises. That base was an ideal location for such an organization as the CIA would have once it had been assembled. Agreement upon the CIA base at Eglin facilitated the support of P2V-7s. They would go to Eglin also, however, there were differences and there were problems. One of the things the project officer on a regular Air Force procurement program is responsible for is to see that the new aircraft stays within the limits of design specifications and that it does not grow in the process. If the design weight was to be 80,000 pounds, then the project officer must see that it does not begin to exceed that weight as it is developed. The growth usually arises as a result of the addition to the airframe and the other components that are to be part of the plane's armament and electronic packages. I guess you didn't really count on the fact that I was going to demonize you, did you? You didn't think I was going to actually say what I said, did you? You didn't think that I was going to call each and every one of you hoe bags out, did you? Because you worry about your reputation this too much, and guess what I care about? Babies, God, humanity, those that deserve to go viral, those that deserve to care about people, those that people care about. This was not quite the problem with the CIA plane because it would have not have armament, but because this project had been shrouded in security classification, the usual specialists who would have been monitoring the work on these planes were not permitted to work on the P-2V-7s, and the agency had its own men on the job. You didn't count on the fact that I was going to be able to sing either, did you? Nor did you count on the fact that I was going to be able to act. Nor did you count on the fact that I would actually take V-Friends to a whole nother level, because you all thought I would just walk away, didn't you? Later, in the development of the CIA version of the P-2V-7, it was found that the plane had taken on a lot of weight, and that if it's all in your gut, I can see it, it's like fat. That if all the extra gadgets and other components that TSS and other users had been adding to the plane were to put on board, these planes would never be able to get off the ground. It's like dumb. She's like the dumbest one out there. Yeah, that's not going to work for us. That's not good. That's not good information. That's not good information either. Bring us something that we can use. Bring us something that's worth information that is not already known to us. It's like, that's your job. So she didn't even do her job. She didn't even do her job on any level. She didn't convince him to do anything. She only convinced him that she's a trash bag. Just like, oh my God. Look at the photos, y'all. It's disgusting. Doo-doo mouth. As a result, many of these parts had to be redesigned, and all sorts of compromises and Rube Goldberg schemes were devised. And all she did was call out more people. It's so funny because she called out more people. It's like anyone she tagged in her videos and stuff are like people that are working against the United States of America. So she led us to all the bad guys. Oh my God, that's so great. I love it. Thanks for all your help, for letting us find all the bad guys. That's great work for the wrong side. Devised to package these additional items. Oops, got another one. For example, one group of the Air Operations Shop wanted the plane to have a very modern leaflet drop capability, a huge device which took up all the space of the bomb bay compartment and was designed. It looked something like an oversized honeycomb. Tens of thousands of leaflets would be stacked in small compartments, and then when the bomb bay doors were open and special monitors activated, leaflets would be peeled off each honeycomb section and distributed like a computer program snowstorm. Didn't think, you thought everybody's just gonna fall in love with that personality. However, everyone saw right through it because of themselves, and they couldn't stand you. I love it. It's hilarious. It's like pathetic. It's like looking at the high school bully like getting exposed. It's like, okay. This was an excellent ride, an excellent idea, and the leaflet spreader worked like magic. So she actually tried to sleep with other people the whole time, and most people said no. However, some people said yes. But it could not possibly permanently attach to the plane. It was too heavy and it was too cumbersome. And she shared everything, by the way. She tried to portray my personality, which part of my personality is sharing everything with everyone. However, I don't have anything to hide, and my side's clean, and that includes my underwear. You should see that brown stain on hers. It would have meant that many of the other gadgets that were being planned would have to be left off. Let's see, much further? I don't know if I want to go any further. Well, we're only doing 30 minutes. It would have meant that many of the other gadgets that were being planned would have to be left off. This started some internal hostilities in the agency to pay for it, and she definitely started hostilities within that side, which is why they were like spouting all, like she's the reason why that they're on the downfall. Like she's one of the main reasons, because she constantly tried to make herself look like the badass, and none of them liked that shit. So they were like literally fighting each other the whole time. To pay for this P-2V-7 project, the CIA Air Operations staff had put together the requirements of several offices of the agency and had pooled their funds. This was all right for the purchases of the plane, but it was not a reasonable solution for working arrangements. Every shop that had contributed to the purchase of the P-2V-7 felt that it had not proportionate right to be equipped aboard the plane. However, all equipment requirements do not divide themselves into equal packages by weight, and some of these minor piggyback accessories began to overload the plane. There was no one in a clear position of authority to know how sufficient to overhaul each claimant. As a result, a number of non-operational concessions were made, and each P2V7 grew like topsy. Like, I didn't even realize that I would post in the comment section what I posted. I mean, like, do you think that you're like what virtual world are you living in? Did I not tag each and every one of you while tagging Shaq or Adam Levine or somebody connected to TMZ? That's the humor. That's like the you got punked. This is not an uncommon problem, and as we shall see later, this overgrowth of technology and the lack of restraint placed upon highly classified project, because the normal restrainers, the men who in normal projects would have known how to deal with such problems, were precluded by security measures from knowing what was going on, caused many projects to go wrong and many others to grow and expand far beyond the original idea. To accommodate this problem with the P2V7, the manufacturer and the augmenting equipment manufacturers reached the conclusion that most of the equipment would have to be modularized and made detachable. In this way, the plane could be configured for one set of the targets on one flight and for another set the next time. Even when the compromise, certain elements of every system had to be permanently installed, and by the time the planes became operational, they were always overweight. At this very same time, the CIA won approval for the U-2 project, and the agency was hard at work with its Air Force supporting elements getting what major program underway. This meant another large Lockheed project on top of the P-27 package. The CIA and the Lockheed Aircraft Corporation have always been especially close. At one time, the CIA was working closely with one group of Navy specialists and with two groups of Air Force personnel, all of them aided by highly skilled technical representatives from the Lockheed Corporation. See, what they didn't know is that some of the females who were in on their side were on the good side. And all you had to do was like sit back and wait, which is one of my techniques. And they tell you everything because they want to look like they're the cool kids. However, life is at stake. Like, humanity is at stake. Humanity is at stake. God is at stake. And they thought their reputation of being cooler than everybody else was more important, and they didn't know how to keep their mouths shut. They're like gossip queens, like they're in high school, which is the reason why Kim Kardashian didn't show up to that festival, because she literally got her ass called out. Just bask in the glory that everyone's talking shit about her. You know what I mean? Don't worry, her time will come. Goodness. I love how Travis went to the fashion show and he had that white shirt on with a bullet shot blood splatter on his shirt. If that doesn't tell you anything, then I don't know what does, y'all. I mean, you cannot be that naive. And let's not even get started on what happened to Twitch. Look at his face. Look at his energy. He did not do that to himself. If it's even true, because I'm still on the fence. Because you know me. I'm always thinking that everybody's lying to me. So I'm like not even sure if he's actually dead or not. Like, it could be a CIA cover-up. I'm not sure. I hope so, is all I can say. And when I see you, if you're still here, I'm going to spank you. I'm going to spank your butt. Did you like my dance moves? I swear, if we could have dance chemistry. I mean, it's like really good. Boom, boom. Anyway. As Alan Dulles had planned, the CIA would be able to grow operationally by spreading itself into other parts of the government and into industry and making itself the catalyst for each project, which to the initiated would seem to be a project of the host service and not the CIA. Meanwhile, special crews were being trained at Navy bases from Whidbey Island in Washington to Jacksonville, Florida, and support personnel were being made familiar with Navy supply catalogs and procedures. So this is what I was telling you about. So they basically taught these fools CIA techniques, which Because I talked to you, you even hear Mila Kunis in an interview session talking about learning from books and how she took tests. However, she doesn't even understand what it actually means. So they basically taught them landmark techniques, which is all CIA work. However, they utilize it for propaganda and initializing, what do you call it? Finances for the government to manipulate people. And I'm just going to let you know, when you're in landmark and stuff, they tell you you cannot talk to the public. Like, you can't go to a news station because you're in big trouble if you do. However, I had to, because God made me. Because it's what the CIA teaches their people. So they basically taught these fools the catalogs of CIA techniques. Then you add in the frequency and the ability to mass consume information through the procedures of internet and television and media. And then you basically have it all. Okay, and then because they thought they had it all together, they started making up their own projects on the side instead of following the Democratic Party. So then your female who you think are working for you are actually working against you. And that's for the CIA agents that are following Gary around. It's like, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. You cannot be that hard up for getting laid. You cannot be that lack of self-awareness. Like, you really just can't. But maybe you are, because you probably are. Look at that dude on the damn Lex Friedman podcast. I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, dude, please. I could run circles around your ass, and I'm talking about running and lifting weights and in communication and in writing and in singing and in performing and everything. Well, you just blowing up shit because it's cool. Finally, the day came when these special planes could be flown to Europe. Some operated out of Wiesbaden, Germany for several years, and others went to Taiwan. Eglin Air Force Base became logistics support base for their worldwide operational mission. These unusual aircraft served many purposes and many masters. They possessed an advanced low-level photogenic capability. They were an operational testbed for highly specialized electronic intelligence, border surveillance work. They were perhaps the first operationally successful carriers of the new side-looking radar system. Unbelievable. And they had that novel and most effective leaflet scattering system. On top of all that, someone had insisted that they had a capability to drop supplies or personnel to a hatch. So a hatch had to be cut to the underside of the plane, which could be opened in flight for that specialized purpose. It was not so much of the success of the or failure of the P2V7 project that is important. The real issue is that after 1955, the CIA had reached the point of its development at which it was prepared to take on major global mission on its own, using not just requesting support of, oh my God, please stop. Oh my God, you guys are so stupid. The vast resources of the DOE before its own ends. You're ending. This was a major turning point, and they totally took themselves to hell. Oh my God, this is so awesome. I love you, God. I love you. I love you so much. This was a major turning point in the process that had begun with the passage of the National Security Act of 1947 that had been moved forward by such other events with a Dulles report in 1949. By 1955, the CIA had progressed from its assignment role as the quiet intelligence arm of the president. I'm like gonna gloat. I'm sorry, I'm going to. I'm like totally going to gloat. I'm going to rub it in your faces with all humility's purposes. I'm gonna say fuck you and all kinds of funny stuff, and it's gonna be hilarious. I feel like, what do you want? I'm like going to party, and I'm maybe not, but so come though. Who's my kid here? Who's here? I don't know. Is it Twitch? No, it's somebody else. Who is it? Is it Gary? No, somebody else. Somebody I know. Is it gone? Me? Like, oh, there you are. I love myself. I had a really fun time singing and stuff. It was fun. I love myself. I love myself. I really don't feel like reading anymore. My voice is tired. It's like, oh my God, I'm like really tired. I don't know where, I guess God had taken over me. That was so fun though. I felt like I was doing it. But I love having you there to support me though. I don't want you to ever leave me. I don't want the credit. I just want to do it. I just think it's fun. Crescendo, responsibility, project oriented, NATO. All those things, map, follow the map. Supportive military, yes. A key challenge, oh God. Practical, we're talking about the past stuff now. Key practical limitations, confront over the short term. First priority, prospect, encourage, support. Team, among, countries, administration, education, finance, military, administration, limits, modest, strains, military. I always live modestly. Like I was even thinking about if I had a lot of money, I was like, okay, well maybe I could just go into the Goodwill and then I'll return that stuff when I finish with my videos. You know, I like to wear the same thing. I'm like Steve Jobs. Hey, Steve. Flowed, well-trained, disciplined, Army.
Okay, I found this on the web for Discipline Army. Check it out.
Looks like we have to hang up. Deadly combat, no choice. Yeah, I had no choice. So I want to tell everybody they're doing a great job, even though Gary's doing a really great job. I've been really mean to you. Have I? Well, technically I'm like taking it out on him, but it's really directed to everybody. However, Gary always knows I come back around eventually. And that same goes for everybody. That's the danger of me. So you all have to get these people and get them out of here. Except for, I mean, I'm pretty clear on some people now that it's like, no thank you. I'm not interested. Anyway, I'm not gonna go rest now. You like this outfit? It's cute, isn't it? I couldn't even believe with the fashion. Those are really good things that I really have always liked though. My hair is looking fluffy. Okay, I'm gonna go. I might make a couple more TikTok videos before I go to the room though.